It's a bench on a bench. Is it worth building one? It certainly was for me, and by the end of this video, you'll have a pretty good idea whether or not it's right for you too. Stick around. So this here is my leg vise, and I've talked about how I love this leg vise in another video, and I talked about the many benefits that it provides in that video as well. I'll leave a link in the description, but there are certain things it's not so great for. There are certain operations that require you to be leaning over it for a long time, and if you're like me, you've worked hard for a lot of your life, your body's not so appreciative of all that leaning over. So I will show you what I do instead, especially when it comes to operations like dovetailing. Alright, so when it's time to do some dovetailing, or I'm just tired of bending over so much, I will grab my bench on bench. Now the idea for this came from an article in Fine Woodworking magazine by Steve Latta, if I'm remembering correctly, and if I'm not, please leave a comment to that effect. But I had some 8-quarter cherry and some maple in my shop that I could make it from, so I just went and had at it, and this is what I came up with. So I'm going to set this up so you can see how it goes and share with you some of the features that it has. So first thing is first, I'm going to line it up with the front edge of the bench, grab some F-style clamps. Now I have holes in the front legs of this bench on bench for this purpose, and that will secure it to the bench top. Then I'm going to need some light. If I'm doing some dovetailing, I need to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to grab a light from over here. Now this is a desk lamp, and this desk lamp uses this bushing. Now this is from Lee Valley Tools, and it's a lamp bushing that's designed to fit in 3/4 inch dog holes. And you'll see that the top of my bench on bench has a row of 3/4 inch dog holes on it. So I'll just drop that one in the end there. And there's my light, and I can position it where I want. And then for a vise, I'm using 2 book binding screws, actually. These are book press screws. Now, I believe I bought these from Woodcraft, but that was a long time ago, and I don't believe Woodcraft has them anymore. So if you're looking for these, just do an internet search for book press screws, and you'll find some. And I think they're only like 10 or no, more like $20 a piece. And these have an Acme threaded screw in them. They'll actually come with some hardware that I didn't find particularly useful, so I ditched it. And I went to my local hardware store and I got some Acme threaded hex nuts to fit in there. I just put a little mortise in the top of the bench here that is equal to the width of those hex nuts and just dropped them in there. Then I drilled a really deep hole all the way through here because the size of these vise screws actually really works well with a 3/4 inch hole. And I already have a long drill bit that will drill that hole. So here's a drill bit that I drill all of my dog holes with. This is by Wood Owl Tools. It's a 3/4 inch ultra smooth auger bit. You can see it's actually got 3 cutters on it. So yes, it is very smooth. And I also have, from Lee Valley again, another bushing, and this is a dog hole guide bushing. So once I had my legs attached to my top, which I believe I did with a dowel jig. I have the Dowel Max dowel jig, and I just doweled the heck out of this leg to this top, and it's been plenty strong enough ever since. So once I had those legs attached to the top, I actually used my guide bushing to drill a nice deep 3/4 inch hole through here, and that gives clearance for the screw to fit all the way through there. Now there are other types of hardware you can use for this. There are Moxon vise kits that you can buy that have little wheels. And some of the ones that I've seen actually have it such that the vise screw is sticking out the front, and then your wheel just kind of threads onto it. That might be convenient for the sake of building your vise, but I don't really like having those vise screws sticking out of here to snag on things, including me. So I actually really like these screws for this purpose, and they were pretty cheap. Like I said, they were about 20 bucks a piece. And there's a couple other things I did to this vise to make it a little bit more versatile. For one, in between the legs underneath here, I actually have a spacer that's kind of glued into place here between the legs and underneath the top here. That means that this entire area of this vise chop is actually clamping against something behind there. You can't really see it on camera, but that's what's going on in there. And then the vise chop itself, I've actually planed so that it has a little bit of a belly in it. So it actually acts a lot like a clamping caul. So anything I put into this vise from about this wide all the way out to the vise screws will clamp nice and snug in there. By the way, these vise screws are about 24 inches apart. The average width of a case is actually a little bit less than that, so I can actually do some dovetailing on some pretty wide panels in here. And I don't intend to dovetail this particular panel, but I'll just use it for demonstration purposes. Underneath here I have my my sliding deadman for my bench, and there's a dog stop in that. I actually use that dog stop to support this from underneath so I don't, lose my grip and then drop my workpiece to the floor underneath there. So that helps me when I'm getting everything nice and secure. But now, with the belly taken out of the vise chop, that is rock solid. And I'll just grab my dovetailing tools and have at it. So this is an excellent setup for dovetailing in my opinion. For one, it puts the workpiece right up under my nose. This height of this workpiece is about the height of my sternum or just below it. So I can really see what I'm doing when it comes to sawing. Another thing it allows me to do is to move the light around so I can always see where I'm sawing from. I can move it to either side via the dog hole bushing I talked about. And it allows me to cut from the leading edge of the work. Now, normally when you're sawing down low in like a leg vise or just a standard bench vise, you would start cutting from the back side and then work your way down. When I'm cutting from the front side, I can actually sight down the layout line that's on top and on the front of the workpiece at the same time and get my angles just right. And for me personally, that really helps me dovetail much more accurately when I'm sawing. How much do I like this bench on bench for dovetailing? Well, this should give you an idea. I actually custom ordered a really high-end dovetail saw. This thing cost me like 350 bucks from Bont's Saw Works. This thing is a thing of beauty. And I ordered it with a custom hang angle that allows me to saw up high without cranking my wrist too much. That's how much I like sawing in this position using a bench on bench. Another thing I did with the design of my bench on bench was to add this little metal vise to the end of it. Now I don't use it a ton, but when I do, it's usually for shaping small parts, things like saw totes for instance. So I really like these PAX panel saw plates. They're very well designed and just good steel, but the totes that come with them are terrible. So I designed my own totes that fit my hand better and match the hang angle that I prefer, and I did that with all of my panel saws. And see, here's another one. Here's an old distance saw plate that was missing its tote, so I made a cherry one to go with it, and I did all of that on this little end vise on the bench and bench with rafts and files and things like that. Another thing that I use this vise for is you'll see that the jaw liner is actually projecting upward a little bit. I will use things like this little bird's mouth here. I'll put a dog stop in the top and tighten that in the vise, and now I have a nice comfortable working height to do any sawing of things like sheet metal, like brass and copper. And I can bring my light on over here and really see what I'm doing well. I have a little corner here from which I can file anything that I've cut out comfortably. So this is a really great setup for me for doing a little bit of metal work as well. So is it worth it for you to build a bench on bench? I can't answer that for you, but I can imagine that if you're as into working as ergonomically and comfortably and being able to see what you're doing as I am, then you will probably have a bench on bench in your future. And of course you can always adapt to this design to match whatever use case you have in mind for it. So I hope you got something out of this. We'll see you next time.